Hello everyone, and welcome to this video on the importance of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine as the underlying supporting concepts and energies of a living and breathing spirituality today. So we could ask ourselves, is it still useful to divide up our spirituality in a sense, to connect to the sacred masculine, to connect to the sacred feminine, if we all aspire to unity, if we all aspire to unify our reality, to harmonize our lives and our reality? Well, my answer very clearly is yes, that it is very useful and very important today. And I would like to share with you in this video why I think this is so, what my perception of these energies are, and why it is still useful today and still important today to really identify these energies and be able to connect to them together and separately as well. So I do feel that this is a question that really arises strongly within humanity today. And this is logical because what we see in our human culture today, in our human society today, that there is a tendency to standardize, to equalize the human experience. In a way, there's a tendency in our current culture to erase or diminish our differences because our differences are seen as a threat. Of course, over the past 2 years, there's been a lot of polarization. And a thought has arisen, a sentiment has arisen within humanity that, in a way, we have to all think the same thing. We have to all act in the same way. We all have to make the same choices for us to be able to get along. This has never been the case, and this will never be the case. We will never agree on everything. We will never experience our lives in the same way as everyone else. And we are not meant to. As a result of this standardization, there is also a school of thought that thinks it would be useful to erase gender, to erase the masculine and the feminine. And as a consequence as well, this is translated into our spiritual experience and into spiritual thought, as we don't need a sacred masculine anymore. We don't need the sacred feminine anymore. We can just talk about God as masculine feminine, source as masculine feminine. And this is not wrong. It is not a mistake, because of course in the absolute there is no masculine feminine. There is one source that connects us all together, but there is a sense, there is a usefulness to the existence of the masculine and the feminine in our reality. I don't think either that they are an obstacle to our freedom of expression. Of course, I feel that every person on this planet should feel entirely free and be entirely free to express their sexuality, their gender, their personality in whichever way they feel is most suited for them. However, I do not think that the existence of masculine and feminine is an obstacle to the expression of this freedom. I believe that there are as many different expressions of feminine that exist on this planet as people that there are on this planet. There are as many different ways in which to express the masculine as there are people on this planet. I think there is a danger in trying to erase our differences. I believe it creates an intolerance towards anything and everything that is different from us. I believe we are all equal in the sense that we are born equal. Our intrinsic value as a human being is equal, but we are not the same. We are different, and it's our differences that create diversity, that create the abundance and the wealth of our humanity, that creates different experiences of learning, of encountering different expressions of the divine through each and every person. And we should preserve this diversity. We should celebrate the diversity instead of trying to standardize everything, which is an impossible quest. Of course, we understand that through everything that is happening today, that the greatest learning of humanity today is being able to accept other ways of being, other ways of thinking, other ways of acting, other choices that are being made. And people who make different choices of life do not pose a threat to our existence, nor do we pose a threat to other people's existence if we make different choices in life. I believe we cannot aspire to unity unless we recognize and we celebrate the masculine and the feminine within. In the same way that we can reach quintessence. The quintessence is a concept in spirituality, in alchemy, in philosophy, which is the transcendence of the world of the five senses, not by negating the senses, but by celebrating our five senses, by encountering each of our senses, by learning how to recognize their play within our lives, by learning how to master them, by really discovering them. And it is the same with the concept of unity. We cannot possibly aspire to unity, we cannot possibly aspire to harmony without really meeting, acknowledging, recognizing, celebrating the presence of the divine masculine and the divine feminine within. This is when these two energies can unite, can unify within, when we experience the famous hieros gamos, or the sacred marriage, the sacred wedding within. Of course, there is no wedding, there is no sacred wedding without acknowledging and allowing the inner bridegroom and the inner bride to exist. And this sacred marriage within is not an end point either. It is not a goal. In a reality, it's a fluctuating state of being. These two energies within are constantly at play. They're in a dance with each other. They're constantly balancing each other out, finding new ways to exist in harmony and to cultivate harmony within. Another clear sign to me of the importance of the acknowledgement of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine is that these concepts, these precepts, are present in all ancient traditions, cultures, spiritual experiences, religions. There are so many examples of this. For example, the Kogi culture in Colombia, who make their sacred statues always in pairs, in masculine and feminine. There's the existence of yin and yang as one of the building blocks of Chinese medicine, as the founding principle of the Taoist spirituality, where masculine and feminine, yin and yang, are not opposing forces, but they are complementary energies. They work together, they flow into each other, and the both of them together create life. They allow the wheel of life to turn. In ancient Egypt, we have the existence of Isis and Osiris, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And what is interesting in this story, I find, is that the polarities that we're used to seeing, as the feminine as the earth mother and the masculine as the divine, as the spirit, is inversed. And here Osiris is the energy of the earth, because Osiris is the green man. Osiris is buried within the bowels of the earth. He is the material existence. He is the physical existence. And Isis is the winged goddess. She is the spirit. She is spiritual. She is the etheric, mysterious, invisible aspect of our reality and of ourselves. Isis represents the divine particle of ourselves, the divine aspect, while Osiris is the physical incarnation. Our bodies, our physical reality, everything we can see and touch and experience through our senses, while Isis is the part of ourselves that is the transcendental part of ourselves, the spiritual self. And We see this in the resurrection story of Isis and Osiris as well. Isis resurrects Osiris by blowing her sacred breath into him. She brings him to life. She is the element of the spirit that brings our material lives into existence, the force of life that moves through us. And of course, for us, being embodied in a physical body, living in a material reality, it is much more easy to connect to the masculine, to the divine masculine manifested within this reality all around us. It is also why, as human beings, male or female, it is much more easy for us to express the masculine within. It is much more easy for us to express our lives through masculine dynamics, through masculine energy, which of course also explains why the patriarchy is not created by men to suppress and oppress women, even if this is one of the aspects in which this has been expressed, but is much more a case of humanity neglecting and suppressing its divine aspect and our connection to the mother, the divine mother, our own spiritual selves and the spiritual aspects of ourselves. So we have to allow her back in. We have to unify these two again. And it is not by rejecting duality that we can do this, because the unity is within the duality. I'd go even further to say that the existence of duality in our reality is the most tangible, most real, most visible expression of divine love in our reality. Because if this duality wasn't there, then we wouldn't exist. We as an individual able to experience this reality, to experience ourselves and experience the divine, wouldn't be able to exist. It is the underlying concept of creation. It is the dynamic of creation, this encounter between the masculine and the feminine. And we are born into this reality of duality to learn that there is no separation, that all separation is an illusion, and that we are already one. So in a way, when we reject the idea and the concept of masculine and feminine, we are rejecting the fundamental principles of this reality. And in a way, we reject our incarnation as well. If we aspire to unity without acknowledging the feminine and the masculine, in a way, we aspire to a disincarnated spirituality. For without the existence of these two, without the divine being able to separate and deciding to separate into divine masculine and divine feminine, we wouldn't be alive. Life wouldn't be able to exist without the existence of these two, not as an individual expression within the whole, not as ourselves as conscious individual beings. And how do we come into this reality? How are we born into this material reality? Through the birth canal of the Divine Mother, through the birth canal of our mother. How do we leave this physical incarnation? Again, through the birth canal of the Divine Mother. She is the gate of incarnation. She is the portal of disincarnation. So without connecting to her, without acknowledging her presence, we cannot experience unity in this lifetime, not in our physical material beings. And this is the point of our incarnation, is to experience this unity. And to do that, we have to acknowledge this path of incarnation. We have to acknowledge the existence of the Divine Mother to combine, to harmonize these two aspects of ourselves. And of course, we can see that throughout the course of our humanity and our recent history, we have neglected the feminine. We have neglected the divine feminine. And we have negated our divine selves. And this is really what we need to reconnect to today. So this is why the celebration, the acknowledgement, and the recognition of the Divine Mother as the portal of incarnation, as the force that gives life to all of us, is so important, because she is the one. Through her, we reconnect to our spiritual selves and we create wholeness, we create unity within. And in a way, this also requires making peace with the mother as our physical birth mothers, but also the divine mother, because there can be a resentment towards the mother, because we know that she is the path of incarnation, because we have come through her, we have physically descended through our physical birth mothers to be born into this world. We see her as the cause of our separation, as the source of our separation from the divine. And yes, she is this source of separation, but only in an intention in the process of creation, just like cell division is the underlying principle of creation. This separation is the underlying principle that allows us to be alive. So she separated us from the whole to be able to have this experience, to be alive. But she is also the path to reconnect to all the other aspects of herself. So this goes in both ways. And we have to make our peace with her, because she is really the guardian of the gate of our divine selves. So we celebrate, we honor, and we acknowledge the importance of the Divine Mother, not because we think the sacred feminine is more important than the sacred masculine, but because she is the path to unity between the both of them, and the path to unity and harmony within.